forget, and I haven't used it, but don't forget, I can use the Insurrection Act. 50% of the presidents almost have used that. And that's unquestioned power. I choose not to. I'd rather do this. But I'm met constantly by...
All right, class, welcome to episode 657 of Donald Trump soft launching some shit, telling you exactly what he's going to do. And everybody goes, he wouldn't do that. Would he do that? And then he eventually does it. And you go, whoa, what happened? But in this episode, I really want to walk y'all through a few things, okay? Because combined, at least, I don't think I'm smarter than all his kingmakers combined. But I do think I know Donald Trump pretty well, right? And then the kingmakers, they don't speak a lot, so it's hard for me to figure out what Stephen Miller and, all these guys for, what they're thinking. But let me tell you what I think is happening here, all right? Donald Trump, who we know well, number one, he's going to layer things out by first lying, normalizing what's going on, all right? So you hear him there saying, 50% of presidents have used the Insurrection Act. Well, let's deep dive and get into the data because that's false. Thanks to Newsweek here, I'm going to give you the actual information. The Insurrection Act has been invoked dozens of times in U.S. history, but it has not been used in more than 3 decades. Okay, so that's not 50%. In fact, the exact number is, thanks to Yahoo News, 15 U.S. presidents have invoked the Insurrection Act out of 45 men to hold the position. That is not 50%. My math goes about 30% or so, right? That's important. So as we go through when the Insurrection Act has been used, all right, we want to talk about other things that's going on here, right? So he's trying to normalize this, right? He's trying to get his cult to think this is a very normal thing for a U.S. president to do, right? The reason why is because, and this is now my opinion, when they are actually going to do this, okay, they're going to do it when it involves an election. I believe this is the important part. This is something they are going to use to try to maintain and stay in power for the blowback that's coming 2026 and also when his term is up. Okay, so when you get the general public and his MAGA cohorts thinking, hey, this is something that we do all the time. This is something that we've done. I got the power to do this. And you also set the, you set the field, right? You let the audience know, hey, there's violence everywhere. These democratic cities, democratic opponents, right? You normalize sending National Guard in without the Insurrection Act. When you eventually do that, the MAGA cohorts think, okay, this is normal. This is not necessarily a power grab. And the reason why it's important for me to give you guys kind of like that little background info is let's start looking really quickly at when people have invoked the Insurrection Act, right? Is it really for power grabs, right? Is this something that's happened spontaneously rather than the president actually inciting violence or attempting to, right? 1808, first time President Thomas Jefferson, right? Invoked the act to address violations of the Embargo Act around Lake Champlain. Okay, President Jackson invoked it twice during the Nat Turner's Rebellion, a protest over slavery in Virginia. Very interesting when we think about laws versus morality, but anyway, whatever. As well as a dispute that was at the time at the U.S.-Mexico border. You see where I'm going? You see where we're going? President Abraham Lincoln invoked the Insurrection Act. Several southern states have seceded from the U.S. Let's keep going. Right? We go here. Rutherford B. Hayes, right? Invoked it twice, 1877, 1888. Deal with striking railroad workers. Then we go back here to suppress violence in the West. And Grover Cleveland invoked it in 1885 to address the riots against Chinese immigrants. You see where we're going, right? We get President Woodrow Wilson. I want to move to the modern presidents, but you see the theme here is things are happening sort of spontaneously, right? You're getting riots, but do you get the sense that anyone is trying to politicize this here? Not that they were right. Like when you think about the Nat Turner Rebellion, when you think about morality now, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. But how much of this gives you the feeling that somebody's trying to do this just to win elections, which is what I think that administration wants to do, right? And I honestly shouldn't say win elections. I honestly should say still elections. Let's think about start more modern presidents. You got President JFK here, okay, invoking it to 3 times for the purpose of integrating schools in Alabama and Mississippi. This civil rights era. 65, President Lyndon B. Johnson federalized the Alabama National Guard to protect civil rights protesters, right? Let me get some solid use here. President Reagan invoked it for the Atlanta prison riot, right? And then you get President George H.W. Bush, that was Bush Jr.'s daddy, right, invoking it to stop looting in a hurricane. And then you get it during the Rodney King riot, right? But it's important we know these things. It's important you have this information. So when you get this strong man trying to tell you, hey, I got this thing that I haven't used. I got this thing. Why is it on your mind? Why are you constantly thinking about these things? Why are you proving all the political scientists right, saying, hey, he's about to do this next, right? And, that's why I say people don't underestimate him and his kingmakers. Okay, this is a specific thing that they're laying out. Ever since the moment they started talking about dangerous democratic cities, they say it over and over and over and over and over again. You get a large part of America that lives in suburbia, or they live in these farmland areas, who haven't really been in the cities, don't understand the politics, don't understand the social economic status, etc. They just think, oh yes, that's where the violence is, and they start thinking violence, Democrats, violence, Democrats. Then you send the guards in now. You send guards from Tennessee over to Chicago. You start normalizing and testing loyalties of other governors in the South, testing loyalties of the guard members themselves who are just following. Right? You get what I'm saying? And then you keep moving on. You keep moving on and on, right? And then you start trying to grab more power, and then you do what you're still doing to enrich the pockets of your billionaire friends. You've shown you don't know how to govern, so the American public is like, they learned from the first time, because the pandemic, this guy, he don't know how to govern, these people know how to govern. And you prep for midterms. You prep for, inciting, like, let's try to incite the riots now and see how they behave. Okay, that doesn't work, we'll do this next. And then let's start using these words. Let's start saying, they launching it. Right now, he's using it plainly. Insurrection Act. Start saying it. Then the MAGA cult goes, this must be normal. And that's how you steal elections. So listen to what he's saying. Know the information. If you have the information in front of you and you still don't realize, especially if you claim you're a Republican and conservative, this ain't right, I don't know what to tell you. I've done my job. I've provided information. All right? Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.